With practice and qualifying, Brian and I are here to get you set for the Forever 400 as NASCAR is in Homestead. One final trip around for old Kevin Harvick. Brian's rocking the hat. Obviously, Harvick has the very cool throwback Budweiser paint scheme. We got lots of cool paint schemes. Shots to 2311. We'll
Yes.
dive into DraftKings, give you some thoughts there. Look at the updated betting odds to see where there's value. Maybe potentially a driver that we might have missed the boat on, but we'll see if there's still time and all that good stuff as we get set for this week's race.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, we were up bright and early. It was a 6 a.m. practice.
Damn right, baby.
For us West Coasters, got up for practice, got up for qualifying. A lot of interesting things happened. Obviously, Marty Truex is sitting on the pole. Had a tremendous one lap speed. We'll talk about what that means as you know, his practice wasn't quite as impressive.
I was just going to say, I like how you say that. Yeah. Tremendous one lap speed.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because early in the morning, a little bit of different track type. Obviously, as the day went along, track got a little grippier. It's pretty interesting to see. So we'll dive into all that. Let's pull up DraftKings and we'll go through the field. And as we go through it, we'll talk about each driver, give you our thoughts in terms of pricing there and kind of what we expect and what we took away from both practice and qualifying. So let's do one of these as we take a look. Kyle Larson starting fifth, the number 5, 11-5. All fives for Kale. He looked really good. He looked really fast. His outright odds are continuing to diminish, and it still might be the right play. Denny Hamlin, the number 11, is starting 11th. Pretty wild there. At an even 11K. We have Tyler Reddick starting 3rd. William Byron starting 7th. Christopher Bell starting 13th. And the aforementioned Martin Truex starting on the pole at an even 10K. A lot to get into. A lot of favorites, playoff drivers. I guess in terms of what you saw in both practice and in qualifying, who's the most interesting, at least at this point, as we sit and kind of take a look at, where we are?
It's got to be Kyle Larson. Just like we talked about last week in Las Vegas, he was priced the way he was for a reason. And he may not have gone out there and put it on pole with the fastest one lap speed, but his lap averages during practice were ridiculous. I mean, the only guy that could even get close is somebody that's not even in this 10K range, who I'll talk about in a second. But Kyle Larson's going to be incredible. And I know that there's worry because he's already clinched and all that stuff, but like I tweeted out during the post-race presser he did from Las Vegas, he said he wanted to dominate. NBC Sports retweeted something of that nature yesterday, talking about how this team wants to go out there and still win. We've seen it mentioned a couple of times. You talked about it on Wednesday's show, like the last time he won the championship when he won he won the first race in the round of 80, went out the next week and won that race too. So they clearly, like, I think from a team perspective, more so like the engineers and maybe the crew chief and all that type of stuff are probably looking at Phoenix. But from a driver's vantage point, Kyle Larson just wants to get in the car, go fast, beat the shit out of everybody, and win the damn race. So I don't think he's going to go out there and lollygag and do anything that's going to out of the ordinary for him in terms of trying to win at probably his best track.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's an Indy car, whether it's a dirt car, whether it's whatever he gets, and if he gets on a jet ski or a speedboat, he's going to want to win. Larson,
he's on a big wheel. Who knows?
Larson was one of the few cars that actually got better as he ran more laps. Was 3rd in 10 lap, but then best in 15, 2nd in 20 and 25. So he looked really good. I think, maybe he doesn't win the race, but he'll definitely be competitive. He'll definitely have fast laps. I expect him to be, right in that conversation, finish, probably top 3. So I think he makes a ton of sense. Tyler Reddick was one of the faster cars from his group and in fact was the only one who was able to put down a time in obviously one lap, but a time that was able to compete with Group A. So that was impressive to see. Obviously, we expect both those guys to rip the high line and be really, really strong on Sunday. Hamlin is, I don't know what to make. Like, obviously, I don't know that we expected him to qualify amazingly. He's going to be sitting 11th. He wasn't incredible in practice, but he's also one of those drivers that I think will be really, really good. I expect to make smart decisions and be in that like top 3, top 5 conversation for the majority of the day.
Yeah, and I wanted to hit on Hamlin real quick because I think knowing that this isn't necessarily his greatest track, and he even talked about it. I think it was during like the early morning press conference they had. I was watching the press pass this morning. He was talking about how like obviously he can't run the high line like the rest of the guys, so he's got to try to find speed other places, and he wants to make sure he stays in this race as well. So being that Hamlin is barely over the cut line right now by a couple of points, I really think that especially early on, they're going to be playing for the stage points and that stuff to try to make sure that they're staying above the rest of the competition. And then late, maybe you get an opportunity to jump in live if, say, he had dropped behind somebody and he's going for the race win because, say, he had like a crappy day and other guys are there. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of him. He's probably a 5th through 10th place car. I don't think he's really going to be a top 5 contender. I mean, you run the risk at 11K of, him not possibly doing very much.
Yeah. Remind me when we flip over to Caesars to look at stage 1 and stage 2 winners, because he could be somebody that maybe even in stage 2 ends up staying out just to lock in those points and then finishes somewhere in the 5 to 10 range by the end of the race. Yeah. Byron flying under the radar, obviously, in terms of qualifying wasn't absolutely incredible, but was super strong. Overall, he'll be just a solid driver. Chris Bell was a little underwhelming. I was kind of expecting a little more, especially after last week. We'll see what he looks like on Sunday. Was kind of mid-pack in terms of 10, 15 lap. And pushed it a little bit and was obviously able to kind of stay there. But he feels like somebody that is just going to kind of be where he is all day. Like, I don't expect him to move forward. I don't expect him to tank. But, it'll be some decisions. And then, obviously, Truex, I went in with a little pessimism coming into the week. He hasn't really shown the speed that kind of we saw over the first, like, 2/3 of the race. But he was able to put that one lap down. He is sitting on the pole. But that might be something that kind of just eliminates him from being someone I'm even considering at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do with Truex. Like last week, they looked good. I don't think they had necessarily a top 3 car in Vegas, and they still, they wound up finishing much lower because they made a risky call as to whether or not to stay out or pit, and they were the only one on the strategy they chose, so they got eaten up there. And then this week, although he's still safely in the playoff or in the picture for a championship 4 appearance, there's just so many guys that are just have a track history better than him at this particular track, so it's just hard to get there at 10K, especially starting first. The possibility of him moving back, I don't know if I would have a lot of him in lineups.
Nope. Let's talk about the 9K range. A few interesting names. Kyle Busch starting 18th, 9,700. Little worried about him in terms of, kind of what he looked like. And, he's definitely been one of those guys that when he's good, he's good. But when he's bad, it's just, I'm going to ride around the back. I'm going to do my thing. I don't really care. YRB, Ryan Blaney looked like a rocket ship. He is super fast, starting 10th, but in terms of his practice was like he got better. He was 5th in 10 lap, but then he was 2nd in 15. He was 1st in 20, 1st in 25. He even ran 30 laps, was first there. Looks really, really stinking good. Could be an interesting, potential early dominator. Chase Elliott starting 16th. Ross Chastain, another top 10 performance at an intermediate as we round out the the 9K range. I guess I'll give you the floor. Let me know what you think about this range as a whole.
Well, if you take away past history and you take away, I guess, our biases, in my opinion, Ryan Blaney has the best car this weekend and should be the favorite for the race.
Yeah.
If you look at his practice numbers, this dude had almost no fall off from his practice. Like, yeah, he wasn't the fastest on a single lap speed or maybe, on the shorter spurts, but on the long run, this car was ridiculous. They even mentioned it during his qualifying lap. Steve Letarte made a comment about how, yeah, he might not have been as fast as the rest of the guys during his qualifying run, but when you look at his telemetry, he was like riding on rails. There was no like having to correct the car one way or the other. Like, this dude, they got this set up right. And, the last time we saw this, we didn't get practice and qualifying, but I assume the last time this team hit a home run on the setup was Charlotte when he ran away with the race. So I have a feeling like this could potentially be a similar situation. And for what it's worth, had Blaney not lost spots on pit road last week, he's probably a top 5, even competing inside the top 3, because he had long run speed there too. So Penske has clearly found something when it comes to long run speed as opposed to short run speed, like we saw in the spring.
Yep. And we talked about it on Wednesday. No Logano in the playoffs, obviously no Cindric. Gives the Penske a lot of opportunity to work on Blaney's car. And when we flip over and look at the outright odds, there's going to be a reason why we're so optimistic on him. I think he makes sense. I think Chastain makes sense as somebody who, starting a little bit further back, I'm still optimistic on him and what he can be come Sunday. Kyle Busch, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Chase
I do
Elliott.
like Chastain this week. I think he's probably going to be somebody that's going to stay right around there, potentially compete for a top 5. I'll talk about him more when we get into like the betting card, because I think there's a particular market that I think I'm going to hit on him because the odds are so heavily swayed in one direction.
Yeah. Let's talk 8K. Chris Buescher starting 17th. Joey Logano. He was actually really good in practice, and I think obviously being in the same garage as Blaney will help them kind of configure his car. He's obviously had an accident. He's going to the backup car. That's why he's started 36th. He'll probably be very popular, and I think it's probably worth getting to. So I think you want to get some Joey Logano exposure in your lineup, given where he's starting. I am curious to see like how effective passing will be. I know with some of these high tire wear tracks, it can be a little more difficult to move, but I also could see Logano making some better decisions. And they also have a little flexibility with not really being in the playoffs, where they can stay out or try and figure out something to kind of, make some moves. Maybe they get lucky, but starting 36, even if he moves into like the top 15, you're going to be pretty happy with him. Brad K starting in the top 5. We liked RFK. We hoped for some speed, and he showed it. And then Kevin Harvick, this is his race, starting 22nd, 8,100. I don't know what to do with him. I feel like he's going to have so much going on. It's going to be such an emotional race. He's doing all kinds of extra interviews and all kinds of stuff with all of his sponsorships and the race overall being named after him. That
that's a really good point that I have not even like taken into account. Really.
Yeah, like by the time he gets to Sunday, like there's even there's some golf tournaments. That's kind of what made me think about this. Like Ricky Fowler has one every year where he's just got so much like sponsorship requirements that by the time he actually gets to play in the golf, he's cooked and he just never does well. So I think Harvick will be happy to run around. I think he'll do fine, but I don't love him this week. Any of these other names in the 8K range you want to make sure we hit on before we start diving down?
This is gross, but Brad Keselowski is going to be good.
Yeah.
If there's anybody who's not in the playoff picture who cares less about trying to help or stay out of the way of playoff drivers, I don't think anybody could be at the top of that list than Brad Keselowski. Like, he has yet to have a win. He hasn't won, and it'll be 2 years if he doesn't win here. this car was good. Practice, he was great. He was competing with, the Larsons and the Blaney's. He was just off of their averages as we got later into runs. And then last week in Vegas, obviously we faded the shit out of him, and he told us to go just where to shove it. And his car was great. You give Brad Keselowski track position at a track that is kind of difficult to pass on, and it's going to be hard to get around him. And I think he's going to stay there all day. I think he's going to be, definitely top 10 car, maybe stay inside the top 5. And at 8,300, if you think that maybe he can benefit from other guys getting a little riskier because they need a win, or they're just playing it safe, I think he could be kind of a pivot play because of where he's starting.
Yeah. And I also think there's a world where he's trying to stay up front to help Chris Buescher potentially find a way to victory lane. So if he can throw a block and, kind of keep other people out of the way, he might be able to do that. 7K, Bubba Wallace. He looked great. He was fast all day. 2311, as a team, looked great. Ty Gibbs, another guy, starting in top 10. Alex Bowman was one of the fastest cars in practice. Second in 10 laps, 7th and 15th, 9th and 20th. So he did have some fall off. So, I'll be curious to see kind of what his projected ownership might look like. If he does fall off a lot and he kind of finishes like a 20th car, he could be eliminating a lot of the field, but he did have speed and obviously qualified pretty well. Daniel Suarez 14th, Eric Jones 19th. The Dinger rounds out the 7K range. I guess for you, Brian, is there a name or two in this range that you're super optimistic about or excited to use?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm super optimistic, but I talked about it earlier in the week. I do think Trackhouse is going to be really good here and potentially stay there. But I think the most appealing guy has got to be Alex Bowman, just because he's starting outside the top 10. He's driving a Hendrick car. These guys are good here. William Byron and Kyle Larson are extremely fast. So obviously Bowman's might be getting in there here. Hey, what can I do different? I don't know. I'm basing a lot of this off of where they're starting. Daniel Suarez, if he gets a top 10, that's a congratulations, amigo. And that's kind of what you're hoping for. You're not going to get much there. Whereas Alex Bowman, he could show up and potentially get inside the top 5. I think his ceiling is much better than that of Daniel Suarez.
I guess I'm a little more optimistic on Suarez just because I saw some speed last week, and I think Trackhouse is finding stuff. But I could also be fool's gold, and I could really regret leaning on him. Plus, I think, if you need a way to pivot in this range and be a little different, I think going to Suarez from Bowman could leverage a little ownership and have as just the highest ceiling. The Dinger's also interesting. I was a little optimistic about him. He's decent at higher tire wear. That's another car that has just seemingly found speed over the last couple weeks. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Almirola, John Hunter Nemechek, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, and Justin Haley round out probably one of the grossest ranges that we'll discuss. None of them are appealing. All of them have their warts. Who's the name that's jumping out to you from this range?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Why would you do that to yourself, Brian?
He was good in practice, my man. Even if you played at a book, and I wish more sports books did this, where say, especially for NASCAR, say you bet a guy, we'll see his odds, because he's going to get added to the card. But say you have a guy for a placement bet, and their car is clearly better than that. You get to the end of stage 1, and the book is shit, we need to limit our exposure here. We'll pay you out, a 3-1 as opposed to your 6-1, whatever you got. We'll just give it to you. Ricky Stenhouse would be that guy this week, in my opinion. He had great lap times during practice. He was another guy competing with Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, and Brad Keselowski for the best times on the super long run here. So if he can stay out of trouble, a top 10 is probably in his future. But again, we're talking about Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Yeah. So,
I take that with a grain of salt, but starting where he is, I think you got the opportunity for, double digit placement points here. 6,700, you're saving a little bit of salary. He's probably going to be popular because I'm sure other people look at these things, but I think John Hunter Nemechek might actually steal some of his rostership, and you might be getting a better value on Stenhouse because people see what Nemechek has done in Cup in the past, and then what he's doing in Xfinity, blah blah blah. Like, I think Stenhouse is a good play this week.
Yeah, the name that's interesting to me, and it's really gross, but Austin Dillon. I think he has one of the higher ceilings in this range. Obviously, things
But
could
he's
go.
starting 6th.
Yeah, and that's why nobody's going to be on him. So
That's true.
if you are a chalky Chalkerson in your lineup and you want to get a little bit unique, Dillon could be a good way to go. But yeah, he's pretty gross, but we've seen him pop at this race.
Okay. Okay. The only thing one of the reasons why I worry about Dillon, he's starting 6th. Okay. You have Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin. Kyle Larson is going to be starting beside him.
Yeah.
You got Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, all of these guys starting in the direct vicinity right behind him. Do you trust him to hold those guys off? Like,
absolutely not. He's terrifying, but I think that's what makes him interesting. Like I said, I'm not going to have 100% of him, but if I have a lineup that's really feels very vanilla and I need a little bit of a unique angle, I think that could be interesting.
All right. I can get behind that.
Yeah. We'll round out the rest of the field. Austin Cindric, Corey LaJoie, Harrison Burton, Ryan Newman, Todd Gilliland, JJ Yaley, Ty Dillon, and Josh Bilicki. Once again, just like the grossest of gross names, but there is potential value. There is potential opportunities. Do you trust Old Man Newman to keep it on the track? I always find myself gravitating towards Harrison Burton at 1.5 miles. I feel like he does a little bit better than kind of the price and the potential, rostership looks like. I guess I don't know any of these names jumping out to you.
I want to be optimistic on the 2 car. I know he burned his bridge with you a couple of weeks ago, and obviously I haven't gotten to him in a while, but I mean, he was another guy that looked pretty good in practice. But he doesn't have the greatest history at these high tire wear tracks. Like, he's kind of run mid-pack Darlington, and then Homestead, he was okay. And obviously he's been a shitbox in 2023.
But it is starting 26th, is in the garage with Logano and with
Blaney. So yeah, I think as far as back markers, which it's kind of crazy that we're talking about Austin Cindric as a back marker at the end of 2023. But yeah, I think as far as like this group of guys, he's probably the only one that I would consider.
Yeah. All right, let's build the lineup. We're putting Larson in, right?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay. Beyond Larson.
Ryan Blaney.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And also, so I was looking at fantasy points for this race last year. Larson started 5th, where he'll be starting. Obviously, won the race, had 109 fastest laps, led almost 200 laps, was absolutely the guy you needed. But beyond there, it was a mixed bag of guys moving forward, like Austin Dillon, who started 32nd, finished 4th. Chastain, who started 20th, finished 2nd. Truex started 12th, finished 6th. So you can guys that move forward, guys that you think can get fastest laps, and then potentially lead laps. So you need to at least move forward a few spots to be relevant. So I think Larson Blaney is interesting. I think that's a good way to find some value. I guess if we have people that do you think we can put Logano in and still get those movement points? I mean, it gets pretty gross, but I think it's probably worth it because starting 36, even if he gets like top 15, that's pretty damn good.
I was just going to say, if we're going to do that, you might as well make this a Penske lineup and just put Cindric so that way you're saving salary.
Yeah, no, that it makes sense. It doesn't feel good, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we have 73.50. We could get really gross and go with somebody down here, and that gives us a lot more room. I guess let's see this. Regardless of salary, obviously we don't have a ton, but we can, be flexible. Is there someone, a Christopher Buescher, a Kevin Harvick, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, AJ Allmendinger that stand out as
honestly, salary be damned. I think it would have to be Kevin Harvick. His car's not great, and yeah, he has a lot of distractions. But in terms of tire management, like he's amongst the best.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to put himself, in any undue risky situations. Like he could manufacture top 10 easy here.
Yeah, and he's probably. So would you rather use him or would you rather use Brad K? Obviously, Brad K starting 4th instead of 22nd 22nd, but salary wise, they're pretty much similar. Harvick, at least, you're probably more likely a top 10, where Brad K, you need top 5. So Harvick's probably the move.
Well, I will say, though, I think Keselowski, of those two guys, is most likely to lead laps at some point in this race because he'll get on a different strategy than the leaders, because we've seen Keselowski do it numerous times already this year where he just says F it and does whatever he's going to do.
Okay. And then if that's the case, then we have to go to 6,400 or below.
Yikes.
So we're looking at Austin Dillon. We're looking at Ryan Newman. We're looking at Harrison Burton, Ryan Preece.
I mean, we could do Burton. The Fords looked okay. And if Burton can just keep the wheels on it and get us a couple of
if we're banking on Logano and Cindric and Blaney to all have a good day, obviously the Wood Brothers Penske relationship is there, plus the Ford relationship.
We literally have 5 Penske guys at one time or another.
Yeah. That's the lineup. We did it. We just won $1 million. Congratulations.
Yeah, right. That lineup is going to go up in flames probably in
Cannot
stage
wait.
1.
Cannot wait. All right. Recap our current bets. I have Kyle Busch to top 10 at minus $1.20. Brad K to top 10 at minus $1.30. Suarez to top 10 at 3-1. Reddick to be your top Toyota at plus 250. Denny over Larson in qualifying.
Denny qualified 11th.
Denny qualified 11th. So that's a big old L. And then Reddick over Truex at plus 105. Brian has Chastain to top 10 and Suarez to top 10. Or Suarez over Eric Jones, which I think is looking really nice. And then the Keselowski you're going to be adding, right?
Oops. Yeah, so the Keselowski Keselowski top 10 is new to the card.
Okay. So we'll run through that when we talk top 10s. All right, so Kyle Larson, still your betting favorite, plus 225, plus 250. Wouldn't fault anyone who goes there. I think there's different ways to attack it. We've talked a little bit on Wednesday. Maybe you go with top Chevy, or you go with Chevy to win. You go with Hendrick to win. Maybe you find a little more value on like stage 2 winner if you think he's going to dominate the race for most of the day. Don't hate it. For this, Caesars, DK, and Rivers should all be up to date. FanDuel is FanDueling, so ignore that. Reddick at 7-1, I think, is still a value given what we saw, given his potential. If he has the car that we think he can have and runs that high line, he has a very, very real shot. He's one of the few, I think, to have a real shot to actually be in the conversation with Larson, both speed and performance, and have a shot to win the race. Truex, we talked a little bit about it. Like, I don't know. I don't trust him to have the speed all day. He may rub it in my face. I may be really regretting it, but despite putting on pole, did not look as good in practice. Old Ryan Blaney, he was almost 20-1 in a lot of spots. He's now 5, 6, 7-1. Given what we saw and given, everything, is that a number that you'd be willing to get to, Brian? If you had to bet him or Tyler Reddick, who would you bet? Like, where's your head at?
Dude, I'm going to have to, just because we haven't seen Blaney with this type of car in a really long time. Yep. And, we know the talent is there. It's just like last week. Can this pit crew not F up? And if they don't, I think the car itself is good enough to get him there for a win. So yeah, I'm going to take the 7-1. I'm going to add that. I mean, at this point, I cannot be on the sidelines the next time Blaney gets a W. So
Yeah. I was seeing on our betting card if either of us had Blaney at the Coke 600. It doesn't
I
seem
only
like
had him over Logano, which I always do.
Yeah, we did that, which was obviously great, but I was wondering what his outright was before or like post practice and qualifying when he looked at the roster.
Remember, we didn't get practice or
Oh,
qualifying.
that's right.
So
That's right.
yeah, they started based on the previous week's stuff, and then whatever the weird ass concocted thing they come up
Remember
with.
we had like a month of just like, or maybe 2 months.
Yeah,
of just
it was
rain,
like
rain.
three of like 4 races or something. But yeah, I think Blaney started 8th or something in that race, and he just blew the tires off the field.
Everybody. Byron 8-1. I think it's fine. Hamlin, you can get as long as 12 over at Bet Rivers. I don't know that I love him on the outright market. I do like that his number is floated, though. Hopefully that gives us a little more value. Top 3, top 5, top Toyota. Chris Bell, similar situation. Ross, despite looking really good, obviously came down to 14 at Caesars, but still 18. I don't hate that. I mean, if you're going to bet Ross, you want to get paid out on it. So that's certainly one way to do it.
And I will add real quick. Apparently these numbers are good at FanDuel, except for Ryan Blaney's, who is now 6-1 there. Because they have him at, I think it's 18 still.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
Or yeah, for some reason they haven't adjusted his.
Oh, but they adjusted everybody else's?
Yeah.
That's very FanDuel of FanDuel.
Or they haven't adjusted them all because Kyle Busch is still 21.
Yeah.
Or he's 21.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems like this isn't really up to date. Bubba 14, 15, as long as 20.
Can't.
Okay. So let's make a short list of, if we're betting outrights this week, I think there's 4 or 5 names that we really want to consider.
Yeah, and I think it's also, before we even go through this list, one stat that I find really interesting: 8 of the last 10 winners at Homestead, 5th or better starting positions.
Okay.
Which technically eliminates Blaney from the conversation because he's starting, I think it's 9th or 10th.
Yeah, so that makes it Truex, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Larson. So if we stick to that, has to be in the top 5.
Pretty good.
So obviously Larson can win, Reddick can win, Truex can win. But you don't put Bubba or Brad K in that group?
I think Keselowski can. I mean, think about it. If we're coming to the end and Keselowski's up there, like he is somebody that's going to put somebody into the wall to prevent them from winning.
20-1 is kind of nice, and we expected him to be fast. He's been fast.
Yeah,
that's tempting. All right, so I guess if you're betting outrights with numbers that we have now, obviously you don't have to actually add them to the card, but give me 2 or 3 names that you would actually consider betting outright.
Well, so I'm adding Blaney just because of my fanhood, and I'm an unabashed Ryan Blaney stan. But I think obviously Tyler Reddick, because the number didn't really move. It actually got a little bit longer.
Yep.
And then I think Keselowski, from a value standpoint, makes the most sense. Like, it's gross. I'm not going to bet it because then that's too much Keselowski exposure for me. And then he's going to wreck on like the first 10 laps. But I think of those guys, I would much rather go there because I do think that Larson starting 5th, knowing that he likes to run the high line and he has a little bit, he has way less riding on this race. You could see him doing the Ross Chastain in stage 1 because he's getting too close to the wall because he's trying to see how close can I get to this thing to get more speed. So I wonder if during the race, say he has an issue or he taps the wall and he drops back during a pit cycle, you can get a way better number. Like even if you got 4 or 5-1 after that, that's way better than taking 2.25.
I agree. Yeah, I think Reddick's the best, probably the best price relative to upside. I don't hate the Keselowski shout. You're never going to have to twist my arm to bet William Byron. I'm not betting Truex. And I said, he may rub it in our face, but I think it's fine.
But yeah, that number is way too short.
Anybody who wants to bet Kyle Larson, I won't stand in your way. I think, obviously Only one win at Homestead, but has been the best car multiple times, but it doesn't always get you a victory. Let's look at some other fun stuff. Let's go to that top 10 market and see if we can't find some value. Let's see here. What do I have top 10 wise? I've Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. Somehow Brad K's number went down.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
It's minus 125. We're Caesars. Oh, so it has gotten a little shorter since you added it.
Oh shit. All right. I'll take the minus 125 for the show purposes.
But always shop it, because there is, like, I was even looking through it on Wednesday. There was like some drivers on DK that were much better priced. Like some drivers on, I guess just look at what options you have, find the best number, see if maybe you didn't get hammered at another book. But yeah, I think Keselowski is fine. I would bet that up to probably 130, 135 for top 10. KFB is up to even money. I probably wouldn't bet that, at least at this point. Chase Elliott plus 140, given what we saw, I don't think is terrible. Would you rather bet Bowman at plus 160 to top 10 or Chase Elliott plus 140 to top 10?
Give me Bowman. Give me the extra two dimes there.
Yeah. Stenhouse plus 450 to top 10.
That's what's going on there, man. I wanted to wait till we saw it, but I am hitting that. I'm smashing that.
I'm gonna join you on it. I'm not missing out on Ricky Stenhouse to top 10 at plus 450. It probably won't hit, but it'll be fun to ride for sure.
Yeah, like when you just look at pure practice numbers, like he was great.
Yeah.
Who cares about one lap speed? Like this race is not going to be run one lap at a time where after one lap, they go to a caution. So I don't think that that's going to matter very much, or if at all, really, unless we get a late race restart.
Chase Briscoe is pretty close to the top 10.
No, absolutely not, Kyle.
Kyle Busch honestly wasn't that bad. He was 9th and 10 lap. He was 11th and 14, 15 and 20th. I just worry that he kind of sits around and doesn't really push it as hard as he needs to.
Well, okay. I think the most telling number here. Okay. Everybody was all over Austin Dillon top 10, 6-1 during the NASCAR betting preview show. His number is at plus 550. It actually got longer because it was bet down to plus 450.
Yeah.
After everybody smashed that 6-1 number. And then his practice times were good. Like I want to say they were probably 12th or 13th. And then he put it 6th in qualifying. But the fact that this guy's top 10s are literally 10th or just inside that in 9th, that is not an indication that he's going to easily get inside the top 10. Like he's going to need somebody to wreck or somebody to run out of gas late for this to happen. So
yeah, he's probably find a good head-to-head against another guy in his weight class and go that way if you like him this week. Obviously, you're not getting the 5 or 6-1 on him, so that I don't fault anybody.
Yeah, I understand the allure of a big number, but if I could get a matchup, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. versus Austin Dillon is probably like minus 120 for Stenhouse. I would hammer that.
Yep. All right. Top Chevy. I love these markets. They're so fun.
Kyle Larson is my favorite market.
185. Byron is 3-1. Ross
Chastain 6-1 is going on my card here.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're on Chastain already at the top 10. I think, adding a little bit of outright might not be the worst idea, but because if he's top Chevy, he's definitely in that conversation. But
the only way I think he top Chevys, obviously, admittedly, is if, say, Kyle Larson has a problem, which is likely. I mean, because he's riding so close to the wall, like he could get into the wall. Honestly, I think that's the only way this happens. But
or at a high tire wear track, tires have issues, and he has an issue. He blows a tire, he spins, he gets hit. Lots of stuff can happen.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, from what we saw in practice and qualifying, Chastain's probably the second best or the second most likely Chevy to finish as the top of the Chevy. I wouldn't say the second best Chevy because that probably belongs to Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but
yeah, it'd be him or Byron, I think. Kyle Busch being 850, I don't really love. Chase is fine. Bowman is fine, but I think either of them, if they're top Chevy, probably win the race.
And on the Stenhouse Jr., since he's 90-1, I'm gonna hit that for a quarter unit. Like,
do it because he could get third and finish behind Toyotas, and 90-1 for a top three is pretty damn good, or top four, whatever he ends up being. Okay, Truex top Toyota 2-1, Reddick's 220. Denny at 380, Chris Bell at 650. Chris Bell at 650 is kind of nice too, especially if you're in like, oh, the Chevys are going to dominate. Maybe Brad K or someone sticks their nose in there. I could see Chris Bell getting like third or fourth or fifth and being a factor. Top Ford, Blaney is now wow, minus 160. That's crazy.
He's still plus 105 on Bet Rivers.
Oh, shouts to Bet Rivers. That's why you shop it, people. Brad K 3-1. I don't hate that. Busher plus 650. Logano 12-1. Given where he's starting, it's probably not likely, but
yeah, I'm not touching. Honestly, the only
Chase
guys
Briscoe 100-1.
No, the only guys in this market that I think you could even consider for the manufacturer of Ford, it's probably Blaney and Keselowski. Like, I don't think Harvick's going to be there, so I think obviously you could get Keselowski plus 310, but
I'm not betting Blaney to be the top Ford at minus money. That's just, I can't do it. What's his top five price?
Blaney's top five market is way better. He's even money to top five, so you might as well just hit that.
Yeah, I'd much rather go there.
Yeah, so you bet Blaney top five at even, and then you could hit Keselowski top Ford at the plus 3 whatever.
But he's
only 2-1 top
70 to top 3. That doesn't make sense.
Did we find a discrepancy?
Well, the top 3 says Kyle Larson minus 200, Blaney minus 170, Reddick minus 170, Truex minus 160. I think they. And then you go top 5, and then
Larson at least people know we're not full of shit. Like,
Larson is minus 165, Truex is minus 120. I think they mixed up the numbers, I think is what happened. I think these are supposed to be the top 3 numbers, and I think these are supposed to be the top 5 numbers.
Yeah, but we need to tell everybody.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. If this is still up and you want to get some of that action, Blaney or Reddick to top 5 at even money feels nice. I'm gonna add Reddick at top 5 at even money. He's probably gonna not win the race, so that's fine, but I'm gonna add it now and see what I can do. Let's see here. All right. Let's go to stage winner.
Live on the show, I just sent a tweet.
Let's go. Look at you.
We'll see how many people get
helping the people out. All right. Where is stage 1, stage 2 winners? Maybe up.
Ooh.
Oh, winning team. Hendrick's plus 145. If you really like Kyle Larson, like plus 145 is kind of nice because that also gets you Byron. And then if you have a weird world where Chase or Bowman have a great day and they end up winning, I mean, that's a pretty good group of team. I wonder what the manufacturer winner. Chevy is plus 105. Yeah, I'd much rather bet Hendrick at plus 145 than Chevy at plus 105, even if it gives me Ross and Kyle Busch. You agree?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Just because even William Byron, who I don't think he's really going to be a winner this weekend. I mean, but if anybody is going to luck into a win just because he's been safe all day, I think it's him.
You can get Bell 17.5 on their featured bets, and then Harvick to top 3 at 850.
Yeah, it's not enough for Harvick.
Bell one at 1750 is pretty nice if you like Christopher Bell. Almost 20-1. I feel much better about it than like close to 10-1.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good number, but their other boost of the Kevin Harvick top 3, I'm not touching that.
So Blaney to beat Keselowski at the end of stage 1 is minus 160. Logano and Elliott, Hamlin and Bell. Bell to beat Denny by the end of stage 1. I guess Hamlin's probably racing for stage points, so Reddick versus Truex end of stage 1. Bowman versus Elliott stage 2. This is how you do it, Brian. Stenhouse at the end of stage 2, minus 125 versus Eric Almirola. If he's any sort of rocket ship, that should be an easy win as long as he keeps his car on the damn track.
Yeah,
and then you don't have to worry about stage 3 nonsense. Because that's
all right. I'm gonna roll with it, but
Byron versus Hamlin stage 2, Logano versus Buescher. Logano is a favorite over Buescher at the end of stage 2. That tells you where Logano's car is.
Yeah,
Truex. But Team Penske versus Team against 2311. That's interesting. Good job, Caesars. Way to have some fun with this shit.
Yes, seriously, like more markets is better. It's just gonna
so
open
this is
up
just
more
you
eyes.
Need whatever team has the best car at the end of the race gets, because like Penske, with Blaney, I don't know, RCR versus Stewart Haas, that feels good.
Just yuck.
Yeah, but like Kyle Busch could get 12th and be the best car of all.
Yeah, but the thing is 4 versus 2 there.
That's true. But I don't know. Trackhouse versus RFK. Trackhouse is interesting too, especially with all your Chastain love.
Yeah, but I also like Keselowski, so
yeah. JGR versus Hendrick. I'm
gonna bet. Honestly, I'm gonna bet that again. Suarez over Jones.
Yeah, plus 100. I'm gonna join you on that. Again. Suarez.
Like I tweeted out earlier, I had a feeling my card for this race was going to grow exponentially, and
that's the fun point. Let's spray the board. It is Saturday. Spray the board Saturday. Kez versus Chase Elliott. Blaney's minus 220 versus Buescher.
That's incredible.
Hamlin plus 105 against Byron. Bubba's minus 135 versus Harvick, and Kyle Busch plus.
That one's really fun.
This one?
Bubba over KV.
But minus 135.
Yeah.
Bubba looks great, so I wouldn't fault you for going there, but let's
see what other weird markets. We got a yes to go to overtime at plus 350.
Wow. That feels that's one of the longest odds we've had for one of those bets in a long, long time.
Yeah, but the thing is I don't think. Yeah, let me go back here, because I don't know if we've even had an overtime racer in a long time.
Grid position of race winner 1 through 9, 300, 10 through 19, 160, 20 through 29, 20-1, 30 or greater, 35-1. Is there anybody in the back markers that we actually like that would give us a better number?
Well, if you like Joey Logano.
Yeah, but like you could just bet Logano, I feel.
Yeah, and then the 10 through 9 spot, that's like you get Denny. You get Blaney, Denny, Bowman, Bell.
Yeah.
Elliott, Buescher, Busch. That's
but
actually
only
pretty good.
Plus 160. I think I'd rather pick a couple of my favorites out of that group, but I like where your head's at.
But yeah, no, I think I'd rather just because Blaney at 6-1 is even that's better than taking that.
Stage 1 winner.
Yeah, stage winners.
Denny's 8-1.
Oh, there we go.
Kyle Larson's minus 110. Truex.
And of course, they put it in alphabetical order.
Stenhouse is 200 to 1 to win stage 1. Blaney is plus 250. Reddick is plus 250. Byron is 5. Let's see. Do we get a better number down here? So Denny is 8 to 1 to win stage 2. I kind of like that. Just because I think he could, if there's an opportunity to pit, maybe he stays out and gets the points and locks up his potential as they head to Martinsville.
Damn. Yeah, Reddick's plus 250, Byron 5 to 1.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of these are pretty gross. What's Larson?
Probably
minus 110. They're not getting burned again. They're not getting burned again. I think last week everybody had him stage 1, stage 2, race winner. Even Wormy one on the NASCAR betting preview show was like, or maybe it was on Stay Green. He's like, knowing what we know now and how that race played out, like, yes, they won, but they probably weren't good bets. And I like how transparent Wormy can be, because even when we win a bet, it may not be a good bet, but it may win.
And I think we do an okay job of talking about that. Like, even if we pick a winner or something, like sometimes you luck into things, or sometimes you're on the wrong side, but you actually win the bet because somebody wrecks, or
sometimes you're on the right side, but your car's not necessarily in the front, and then you get a late caution and they end up winning the race, or vice versa.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to look at before we get out of here?
Well, I mean, I wish that these things probably didn't get moved, because they're gonna get moved. But the top 5 market, like if this is still up there like this and you're watching this, you go hammer these numbers. I mean, I don't know what type of action Caesars is going to take in terms of maybe canceling the bets, but
yeah, always helps to shop it. Look around, you might find some good values. All right, let's look at the cards. Let's give the people our favorite bet as we sit here, and let's get out of here. So, pre-practice and qualifying, Kyle Busch top 10. It's around even money. I don't hate it. He's probably going to be like a 7 to 10 car if he gets a top 10. So it might be a little gross. It might not be worth pushing. But it feels pretty. He was pretty okay in practice. So I don't hate it. Keselowski to top 10 minus 130. You can still get a little bit better of a number. I think 130 would be the last place where I'd actually want to do it. Suarez top 10. I got 3 to 1 prior. What's his number now?
Oh yeah, we didn't even look at him.
Suarez to top 10 is 3 to 1 still. So I love that. I think that's a great bet. His upside and potential at that price is definitely worth it. Reddick to top Toyota, still love that. Denny, that was already a loser. Reddick over Truex was my best bet. I still feel fine about that. It's minus 105 now. I still like that. You're getting him as a dog. Truex could be scary. Could rub it in my face, but I'm happy to do that. I joined Brian on the Stenhouse top 10 at plus 450. That's just a number play. That's kind of fun. Reddick top 5. I got it even money. And then Suarez over Eric Jones. Even money. Brian, break down your card for the fine folks out there and let us know your favorite bet as we sit here Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so early in the week, I only had 2 sitting there. I had Chastain top 10 at minus 130 and the Daniel Suarez over Eric Jones. And just today, post-practice and qualifying, I've added Ryan Blaney outright at 7 to 1 just for the feels. Brad Keselowski top 10, which is really hard to do. Another really hard one is the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. top 10 at plus 450, although I think he probably has a top 5 car in terms of speed. Chastain top Chevy. I actually went to Bet Rivers. That's at 850. So I'm going to take really that number. I think if anybody benefits from, say, Kyle Larson, hitting the wall, I think Chastain could be that guy. And then just for the hell of it, Stenhouse Jr. top Chevy as well at 90 to 1. The number's too good for quite possibly the second best Chevy this weekend. And then Stenhouse Jr. over Eric Almirola in stage 2. And then I added again Suarez over Jones at even money.
Yeah, so I'm looking on FanDuel. Reddick's plus 170 to top 3, so even money is probably about right. For the top 5
For top
market.
5?
Yeah. Maybe a little good, but not super. What does FanDuel have? Yeah, oh dude, FanDuel has it Suarez at plus 340. Let's update our cards accordingly.
Oh, the top 10s?
The top 10, yeah. I
Oh
guess
shit, they got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at plus 650.
yeah, let's ride.
Let's go.
That is why you shop it. I'm not gonna update my Suarez just because. Actually, you know what? I will just do this.
All right, I don't know what I'm missing with Stenhouse here, but like, look, I don't care that he qualified 26th. I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
Just stay clean, and by the end of the day, I'm pretty sure this dude's going to be in the top 10 if he avoids a wreck.
Yeah. I think that's good. So I like Suarez top 10, especially if you can get like 3-1 or better. But for my best bet, I'm gonna go Suarez over Eric Jones. And what'll probably happen is Suarez will get 9th and Jones will get 8th, or Suarez will get 10th and Jones will get 9th, and I'll end up regretting not going with the top 10 instead. But I just think that's too good of a bet. I expect Derek Jones to be in the 20s. I expect Suarez to be competing, if not in the top 10. And I can get plus money to do that. 5 units. Let's fucking ride.
I like that a lot, but for me, I'm gonna go in top 10 market, and it's gonna be really hard to do here, but it's something I was talking about early in the week. Brad Keselowski, top 10, minus 125 at Caesars. This is gonna hit. Brad K is gonna be great again. He's gonna tell everybody, "Here's my ass," and watch it run away from you all day. So yeah, Brad K, it's disgusting. I'm going to go full 5 units here, which means, you know what that means, folks.
Brad
Fade
Keselowski is going to finish 11th, and Daniel Suarez is going to finish 12th, and Eric Jones is going to finish 9th in front of both of them.
Let's see if I can finally get Keselowski right.
Yeah, no, he's one of your nemesis for a while, for a reason. So
yep.
That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Make sure you guys enjoy the race. Make sure you hit some bets. Let's win some money on DraftKings this weekend. Enjoy the race. Watch the Chris Wormy pre-race poll. Hopefully you're catching this before Wormy goes live. It should be up on his YouTube page. The link is down in the description, but it's usually like an hour and a half or so before the green flag. So for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. You guys have a good one.